The sun was dipping low over the horizon, staining the sky with strokes of crimson and gold, while the prairie wind whispered through the tall grass like a memory that refused to be forgotten. And on the creaking porch of a weathered ranch house stood two figures whose hearts were tied together by a fragile thread of love, uncertainty, and longing. She was slender and graceful, her dress the color of faded sky, her hair pinned back loosely, as though even it were undecided whether to stay or go, and her eyes glimmered with questions she could no longer keep buried. Beneath polite smiles and gentle touches, he was rugged, broad-shouldered, with the sunburnt skin and calloused hands of a man who had wrestled with both cattle and fate, his vest dusty from the trail, and his holster heavy with the weight of choices he never wanted to make. Their hands were clasped together, not in comfort but in desperation, as if letting go meant not just parting ways, but tearing out a piece of their very souls. She broke the silence first, her voice trembling, soft as the breeze yet sharp as a blade. "What if I leave?" The words hung between them, raw and dangerous, and for a moment the only sound was the lonely cry of a crow circling above. His jaw clenched, his eyes searched hers, and in that endless pause he seemed to battle with all the storms that had ever passed over him. Then, with the quiet strength of a man who had seen too many dawns alone, he replied, "Then I'll leave the light on just in case." It was not a plea nor a bargain, but a vow whispered into the marrow of her heart. She stared at him, breath caught in her throat, because she had expected anger or an attempt to hold her back. But not this, never this patient, steady love that promised to wait even in absence. She turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the last edge of sunlight melted into twilight, and thought of the dreams she carried, dreams too big for this small town, too restless for the quiet ranch life, dreams that whispered of cities with bright lights and crowded streets where no one knew your name. Yet here was the man who had loved her since. They were children chasing fireflies under the summer moon. The man who had ridden 20 miles in the rain to bring her medicine when fever gripped her. The man who kissed her like the world would stop spinning if he let her go. Could she truly walk away from that? Her chest ached with the weight of the choice. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, rough but tender, and she remembered every story he had told her by the fire, every promise he had made without words, promises built in the way he looked at her like she was both his anchor and his compass. "I'm not enough for you," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. He shook his head slowly, his hair falling across his brow, and he whispered back, "You're more than I ever deserved." The ache in her heart deepened, because she wanted him to tell her not to go, to beg her to stay, but instead, he gave her freedom wrapped in loyalty, a kind of love that didn't chain but sheltered. She thought of the lantern hanging by the porch, the one he lit every night, though sometimes it was only him and the stars who saw it. And she realized he meant more than just a light for her return. He meant his heart, his faith, his home, waiting patiently should she ever find the world too cold and unkind. She tried to picture herself in the city, her dreams burning bright, but every image seemed hollow without his hand in hers, without his quiet laugh echoing through the night, without the comfort of knowing that no matter how far she wandered, someone loved her enough to leave a light burning against the dark. Her tears spilled then, tracing rivers down her cheeks, and he reached up to brush them away, though his own eyes glistened with unshed sorrow. "Don't cry, darling," he murmured, voice rough as gravel, but soft as a prayer. "If your heart tells you to go, I won't stop you. I'll just be here, light burning, waiting, because that's what love does. It waits even in silence." Her sob caught in her throat, and she pressed her forehead against his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that felt like home. The night gathered around them, stars igniting one by one, and the lantern on the porch flickered to life, casting its glow over their entwined hands. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, whether she would pack her bag and chase her restless dreams, or whether she would choose the quiet strength of his arms, but she knew this moment, this promise, would live inside her forever. And maybe that was the truth she needed. Love was not always about holding on. Sometimes it was about letting go with hope. And sometimes the greatest vow was not to demand, but to wait. As the crickets began to sing their nightly song and the world hushed around them, she lifted her face to his, eyes shining with both doubt and love, and whispered, "What if I can't find my way back?" He kissed her forehead, lingering there like a blessing, and replied softly, "Then the light will burn until you do, or until it burns itself out with love." And in that moment, beneath the vast expanse of stars and the steady glow of the porch light, she realized that no matter where her path led, a part of her would always belong to him, to this porch, to this lantern, to this love that burned not with demand, but with patience.